Well, the housing market continues to struggle with news that last year was the worst on record for the battered industry. Even so, last month did see an increase in new home sales of more than 17%. But can the trend continue? Peter Schiff is the president of Euro Pacific Capital and author of How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so you're kind of famous for being a skeptic about the market, not being very upbeat or upbeat at all about the possibilities for housing or the economy. And I think it's interesting that recent numbers have sort of backed up your philosophy. You've said prices need to go down another 20%. Now that these new numbers are out, what do you see?
Well, I still think prices are headed lower, certainly in nominal terms. There's a lot of inflation being created by the Fed. So over time, it's hard to say where housing prices are going to be in dollars, but they'll be a lot lower adjusted for inflation. And even the numbers that we just got, they were skewed. Most of those sales were in California. They had a tax credit that was expiring at the end of December. So a lot of people rushed to buy their houses and get that tax credit. Plus also, mortgage interest rates really started backing up last month. And I think some of the fence sitters also wanted to lock in a mortgage rate before they went higher. And looking at the action in the bond market today, Treasuries got hammered. I think rates are headed a lot higher in the months ahead. And that is going to be even more problematic for the housing market.
Well, I said you were negative, and I was right. So I want to talk, though, about this number out today. New home sales for the year down 47%. Does that shock even you? No.
And, it would have been worse had, the government not been supporting the market to the extent that it did. If interest rates weren't as low as they were, imagine how many fewer homes would have been sold.
Well, you're well known for saying, we're in a depression. The American economy is on its back. It's not coming back. From your point of view, and I think this would be instructive for our viewers, what would it take? What would it take to get housing back, to get this economy working on all cylinders?
Well, it's going to take, based on what I heard last night, a new president, probably a new Congress, because everything they're doing is making the problem worse. We have to allow our economy to restructure. We have to dramatically reduce government spending. We have to repeal a lot of the rules and regulations that make us so uncompetitive. And we have to allow interest rates to rise. We have to allow insolvent institutions to fail. Real estate prices have to go a lot lower. And as long as we try to prop them up, there are consequences for that. People can't afford to buy houses at these prices. The only way they can do it is with a government-guaranteed mortgage. But we don't want the government guaranteeing mortgages. We want people buying homes that they can afford, not based on a government guarantee. So we got to get the government out of the housing market. We got to dismantle Fannie and Freddie. We need to have a sane person at the Fed, not Ben Bernanke.
Well, that's a pretty serious charge. Bernanke's not crazy. You may not agree with him, but he's not crazy.
Well, he's committing monetary suicide. He has set this country on a course of runaway inflation. He is monetizing federal debt. Pretty soon, the Fed is going to be the biggest source of money to the U.S. Treasury. The government's going to be spending more printed money than it collects in taxes.
Well, Peter, I know you're not a fan of the Feds either. So thanks for your help. It was a very interesting conversation. Appreciate your time.
Sure.
Okay, so there is some good news out there, no matter what Peter Schiff says. The Dow crossing the 12,000 mark today for the first time in almost 3 years. It didn't stay there, though, closing up 8 points at 11,985. For more on what the markets will look like down the road, I'm joined